Thank God for RFK Jr. for becoming our Health and Human Service Secretary, because now we can finally openly talk about what happened back in 2021 and why they did what they did. Clearly, this was designed to wipe out vast portions of the population, but they had to put it together in a way where you would not realize what was happening while it was happening. So apparently, this was something that's now been confirmed. There was a 14-day rule. Now, on the day of, there was a 15-minute rule, meaning after you took the shot, you had to wait in the car. Because remember, they were vaccinating people. They were injecting, well, let's not call it a vaccine because it's not. They were injecting people while they waited in their car in parking lots behind abandoned buildings. They were just opening up shop and injecting people in random places, no doctor's offices or hospitals, just outdoors. You had to wait for 15 minutes before they would let you leave because a lot of people would die within the first 15 minutes of being injected. And they didn't want you to die while you're on the freeway and cause an accident. But now it's also coming out that there was a 14-day rule where if they wouldn't consider you being fully vaccinated for 14 days, because if it killed you within the first 14 days, they didn't want to have to report that to VAERS and have it go on record that this many people died within 14 days of taking it. So they would only count the deaths after 14 days. But then you could also muddy the water and blame it on pre-existing condition. You can blame it on climate change. You could blame it on racism. You could blame the death on some other factor. And people wouldn't correlate the death with that experimental injection you took. That's why they had to do it that way. So they wouldn't consider you fully vaccinated for at least 2 weeks after your second injection, which is completely insane. So it says VAERS data shows nearly 50% of the vaccine deaths that we know of occurred within the first 48 hours of being jabbed, 80% within the first week. But they call these people unvaccinated, so they didn't accurately count those deaths and associate them with the injection. They were able to get along with that. They were able to push this scam all the way until this year when RFK Jr. took over, when Trump was elected, when Trump became president. That's years of hidden data where they were literally euthanizing vast portions of the human population. You know, it's crazy. I was watching a video the other day of a man in China, and he lives in one of the big cities. And he said in 2019, it would be so crowded on the streets in China, you couldn't walk without bumping into people. And then, you couldn't rent an office space, you couldn't open up stuff because everything was booked. The city's crowded. I mean, there was like 1.5 billion people in China. Now, he says it feels like we're about 500 million people in the entire country. They said that just all of a sudden, everyone's gone. But they don't have a free and open society like we do, so they're not allowed to talk about it. But I remember in 2020 and 2021, I remember that there were parts when you looked at a satellite map of the planet where you look at China, there were smokestacks coming from the crematoriums where it would literally black out the entire sky. And I watched those videos of them. They used to board people up. Remember, people were in their apartment, and if you caught a cold or if you had a fever or anything, they would nail your doors shut and they would starve you to death. You weren't able to get out of your house. And I remember watching how they would put people in plastic bags that were still alive, and they would burn them alive in the crematoriums. We don't know how many people they killed, but I know now China's empty. I know now here in the US, a lot of my friends dead. A lot of them, they're all, for the most part, men. The only women I know that have died from it were dark skinned Black women. But for the most part, it's mainly brown and dark skinned men that I know that have been taking the biggest losses. If you're fair skinned like Drake or Steph Curry, you're not going to see the effects as of now. We haven't. Um, Due in part to the research that has come out, it shows that whatever was in these injections is testosterone reactive. So, from what I've deducted, me and there's a lady we're going to play her, Dr. Carrie Madej, apparently there was something alive in the injections and it grows. It synthesizes testosterone. And depending on if you're a man with high testosterone levels or low testosterone levels, that will dictate how fast this thing would grow inside you. They keep pulling these white fibrous strips out of people's arteries, and they're thinking like, what is this? It's actually pieces of a creature that's growing inside you. And eventually it's not a blood clot, it's more of a a blood passage clog. This thing that's not supposed to be in your body, like think of it as a parasite, it's growing and its tentacles are growing within you, and eventually they're going to start causing organ damage. Now, from my opinion, from what I can discern from this, the creature's size growing inside your body causing organ damage is being put as a issues with the spike protein. But I mean, in my opinion, the spike protein is theoretical. But a creature, a symbiotic creature, where like you're the host, and there's this growing parasite in you, that's actually more realistic, and that happens a lot. People have all kinds of worms and different types of parasites that grow in them, but this one is different. There's a doctor in Austria, Dr. Frank. He said that this was not a carbon-based creature that they found inside the jab. It was aluminum-based. So what that means is that it was either engineered or we don't know where it comes from. We do know that these jabs were not prepared in a lab by the pharmaceutical companies. They weren't synthesized by Pfizer, Moderna, J&J. They existed before the 2020. Actually, these were already prepared as early that we know as 2010, because they were trying to use them during the swine flu, but they didn't have the infrastructure in place to get it around to everyone. So they had to wait. We don't know where it came from. I mean, we were doing the math. Even if you had factories set up on every continent on Earth, just to make 1 billion vials, just 1 billion would take years, 8-9 years, just to synthesize a billion. That's a lot. To take whatever fluid, whatever's in there, and put it into a vial would take years. But to make 8 billion could take 20, 30 years. So we don't know what was in, we don't know what was in them. We don't know where it comes from. We just know that they wanted to get it in you. As far as we can tell, there were larvae in the injections, and the fluid around them, the fluid that it came in was just testosterone. And that's why, and when you go get the booster shot, the booster is no more than a testosterone injection. And what it would do is like you're feeding the creature and you would cause it to have a rapid growth spurt inside you. And that's when people were usually passing after the booster. A lot of people don't know this. I'm just so glad that we can finally talk about it. I mean, at this point, it's more or less spilled milk for a lot of you. But for me, you know, I could talk about it. I never even took the test. None of it made sense. And then if I'm the kind of person, if you tell me something and I ask you why and to explain it, and you tell me don't ask me why, I'm gonna swing on you. I'm an adult. You're gonna explain yourself to me. Just because you say so, that's how we get into a fight. So, and then nobody was really cut out for that. So I didn't have that issue, but nobody could give me any straight answers, so I didn't do it. Let's see here. I'm gonna play this video. We're gonna listen to Dr. Carrie Madej talk about what she found when they looked under a microscope in a discarded vial. Because remember, they kept it all hush hush. Remember, there was nothing on the inserts when they received those COVID vaccines. The insert that comes usually in vaccines, it was blank. And they had you sign an authorization form, which basically tells you that there was no way that they could give you information about it because they don't know. So you were signing a consent form, consenting to doing something that they don't even know what the outcome is going to be. So you had to sign away. I mean, you had a choice. So I really can't be mad at that part. But let's see what Carrie has to say.
And so I talk a lot about this, right? And how did I even get to know about this? Well, if some of you heard my story, you'll know that at some point of my career, I was recruited. They thought I would be a good person on their side. I was recruited to business. Sound a little bad, but you know what, Carrie, soon it's going to be us or them. And so we have to, you're going to want to be on our side. You don't want to be on the other side. It's going to be bad. I said, I would never do that. And you're a fool. You're a fool to think that this technology wouldn't be turned back on you, because we are human beings, right? And they have a supercomputer that wants to guide all of this. A computer doesn't care who you are. It has an algorithm. You have a dollar sign in your head. It's not like the Marines, all for one, one for all. A computer sees it as foolish, frivolous, right? So I had all this knowledge. That's how I got to know how to research for it. But I was still not happy. I'm a person I have to know, right? So I decided I'm going to look at inside of these vials, even though it's not legal. I don't care, because if something goes against my God-given rights and my human rights, it is my duty to break that law. This is our world, our planet, our children, our bodies. Don't give it away. It's ours, right? So this is one of the pictures of Moderna. I put 2 drops on a glass slide. I had a compound microscope. That's it, guys. You could get it easily, $300. And I had a white light going up on the middle and a glass top on the very top. And that's it. I waited 2 hours. And it was translucent at first. And all of a sudden, colors appeared. Vibrant purples, blues, reds, greens. I'm like, I've never seen this chemical reaction. There was no chemical reaction, right? So I ended up finding out all these colors, actually, when they appear under a white light, that's a sign of a superconducting material inside these injections. All the manufacturers have that. What that means, it's proof they are putting an injectable computing system inside every single one of these vials.
What that also means is that, again, we don't know where this comes from. We don't possess the technology to put liquid circuits and liquid computers inside of vials that you can inject into people. We're a couple of hundred years away from having that type of technology. We don't even know who creates nanotechnology. What machine is making nano machines? Like no one ever actually asked those questions. No one knows where this stuff comes from. That's the craziest thing. Like, you would just assume that somebody knows, and when you go to look it up, there's nothing there. So she's going over the meat and potatoes of it, but there's a lot more questions. I'm glad she's bringing up the name of the creature that they're finding inside of all these people, the one that they inject into you, and then the larva, and when it hatches inside your warm blood. Because remember, they had to store it in a freezer. And because once it defrosts, the eggs are hatched. So that it wanted to hatch inside of you. It was called the Hydra vulgaris parasite. Hydra vulgaris. And it's crazy. We use the word Hydra, and it's a multi-tentacled creature. They use it in all the movies and everything. They studied it at UC Davis, California. It was actually a freshwater hydra. Fun fact about a hydra is that it's indestructible, meaning that you can't kill the hydra. It doesn't die, as far as we know, not even with fire. So this is one of the strange things in nature. And being that Dr. Frank says it's aluminum based, this version of it, I don't know, that can make it even harder to kill. But the strange thing is, people are dying with this in their body. But if this doesn't die, does it stay alive inside of people after they pass away? I know it makes me wonder, like, if this technology was around a long time ago, and maybe that's why we have to bury people 6 feet. Those stories of reanimation, maybe some of that stuff's true. Maybe this thing grows into your brain and it takes over while you're still alive. Because it's always, I know a lot of people that are dying, but I'm like, what about the people who aren't dying and their body just accepted being a host for this creature? A lot of people's body rejected it instantly. Having a parasite injected into your body's going to see it as a foreign invader, and your immune system would attack it. which is why there was a 2-jab system. Jab number 1 turns off your immune system. Jab number 2 was the creature. And depending on when your immune system turns back on, if the creature's too big, then your immune system won't be able to hurt it anymore. And sunlight is what reactivated your immune system. So that's why people in states like Florida, Texas, they're not dying like they are in California. Remember, they blocked out the sun in California. They made it so that not incandescent light bulbs were illegal, like those yellow ones. They banned them under Biden. They were banned, and you had to use LED lights. This was they were literally wiping out entire portions of humans in certain countries. This is this is a huge agenda, but it's actually happening in real life, and the numbers here have already dropped. People just aren't talking about it because we're dealing with a lot of illegal immigration. But our numbers are down. We probably lost, I don't know how many millions. We could have lost 50 million or more people to the injections, but we didn't realize it because we've had so many. Think about it. Why else would they bring in 40, 50 million illegals in 4 years? And those unvaccinated illegals within the same 4 years that they were euthanizing people with these injections. But yet I'm crazy because I talk about the great replacement theory. Yeah, all right.
An injectable computing system. Did they say anything to any of us? No. There's little cubes on this one. I'm just showing some of these photos. Here's another one. It's hard to see on this photo, but at the very edge, it's a cube-like structure. We're not quite sure exactly what that is right now. So also I saw a lot of metallic flex fragments. I didn't see anything about metal fragments on the ingredient list again. And these metallic fragments to me look a little more exotic. It's not like your typical aluminum, et cetera, right? This one is strange. It's so opaque, it leaves its own shadow. Some of these pictures are between 100 times magnification, which is nothing, to 400 up to 600 times magnification. This is not nanotechnology. This is not looking at nanotechnology. This is on a much grander scale. This is crazy. So this picture kind of has been going around, I think. I'm going to give you a close-up of him.
Now that is the best picture we have so far of the Hydra vulgaris. It's alive. Apparently it's sentient, meaning it knows it's alive and it's intelligent, and it was able to suspend itself off of the glass when she was looking at it through a microscope. It's like it knew she was looking at it. That's how she describes it. We don't know where this stuff came from, and it's inside of our friends and family and people all around us. We don't know what's in them. We don't know what's growing. We don't know what's going to happen to them. We know it's killing a lot of people, but the question is, what happens to people that it stays inside their body, 100 months after the injection, 150 months later? We don't know what's going on, and no one's asking.
It was on the first slide I did, and there's the cover slip, right? So everything gravitated to the very edges of the cover slip. That's where I saw a lot of action. There was a lot of aggregation. There was self-assembling. This is 2 hours. It's not like 12 hours, 2 hours time. I also saw this thing. I was shocked. It actually was able to lift itself up off of the glass slide. You can't see it? Okay. It was able to lift itself up off of the glass slide. It had tentacles like you see here. It was able to move. It is my opinion, and it's my interpretation, that it was self-aware. I've never encountered anything like that. I've done slides. I've done all kinds of preparation of slides of biologic materials, et cetera. Never have I witnessed anything like that. And so I did cry. I cried. And then I thought, well, okay, perhaps that was a fluke. Surely, maybe some contamination, right? So 2 months later, I get another Moderna vial, and I look at it under the microscope, and what is that? Still trying to figure it out, guys. But we shouldn't have unidentified objects inside of these injections. Another of these string-like material, I'm looking at, it almost looks like some kind of a living organism. And then I see another one. And then I cried hard. You may not know what that means. I do. These are parasites that are made to meld with your nervous tissue. Imagine a child that's forming their neural network. I want you to feel what I feel. I want you to get that righteous anger. We need it now. No more.
Now, this video's old. She made this, and then she also went on the Stu Peters show, and then her and her family were in a plane crash, and they were lucky they survived. But after that, she went underground, and you haven't really seen much from Dr. Carrie Madej since then. They tried to take her out and her entire family just for talking about what was inside the vials and what this actually means for humans. What it means is that we are no longer on the same path we've been on for the past, I don't know, since the beginning of, recorded history. There's there's something different that has been injected inside of us, and we don't know what it does long term. We have no clue. We just know a lot of people are dying and there's a lot of weird stuff going on, but we don't know. We don't know. And, they were giving it to kids, and, you see people just dropping all around you every single day. And a lot of people aren't asking questions. There's a black box that they're going to start putting a label.
Today, the conservative group noted
they're doing a black box label that they're going to be putting on the vaccines, but it's a little too late.
Sources say the US Food and Drug Administration intends to put a black box warning on COVID-19 vaccines. That warning is the FDA's most serious tool used to warn users about life-threatening risks linked to a product. For reference, opioids carry a black box warning due to the risk of abuse, addiction, and overdose. Health Secretary RFK Jr. has repeatedly questioned the safety of COVID-19 vaccines. CNN's Meg Tyrrell has more.
Well, we've learned that the FDA is finalizing plans to put its most serious warning on COVID-19 vaccines. It's called a black box warning, and it shows up really at the top of prescribing information outlined in a black box so that prescribers and patients are aware of really serious risks that can be associated with products. Typically, this is reserved for situations where a medical product might be associated with the risk of death or life-threatening or disabling reactions. And really, it's there so that prescribers and patients can weigh those potential risks against the benefits of any intervention that they're considering. Now, we've learned that this is in the process. It's not finalized and could still change, but it comes after a memo was issued in late November by the FDA's vaccines chief, Dr. Vinay Prasad, which claimed that the COVID-19 vaccine has been linked to the deaths of at least 10 children. Now,
imagine what kind of parent you must be to sign your kid up to be a fucking guinea pig where they're literally experimenting on your kid, and your kid is actually one of those 10 that died. Now, the truth is, tens of thousands of kids have died from this so far. Remember, they weren't counting those deaths if it was less than 14 days after taking it. But remember, 80% plus of the deaths happened within the first 14 days. So that's, you can't even calculate it. And they purposely smeared the numbers. And if you haven't died and you took all those shots, remember, the night is young. There's always tomorrow. It's crazy. I remember being on Clubhouse, and I was warning and screaming. A friend of mine, Hocus, he had these rooms, and we would sit there and just give people advice. We would offer to pay people's bills if they get fired for rejecting it. I went all out for this. They took all my social media accounts away. So I was on Facebook. I was on Clubhouse, and there were people that would be like doctors and nurses, and they would come in these rooms and they would argue with us, and we would just read over the data, because no one wanted to read. Everybody just wanted to listen to somebody. And I was like, well, no, why don't you just read for yourself? I'm from California. They were giving this out in Hollywood as early as the end of 2020, untested. And they were telling you, hey, first things first, you're going to get a false positive for HIV if you take these injections. And I was looking like, well, how do you know it's a false positive? I mean, how do you know it's false? You don't even know what you're injecting into yourself. And there were people who we watched literally die on camera, doing interviews, just dropping. It already came out. There was no virus. There was none. It was all fake. They completely, muddied and fudged the numbers of the flu and called the flu that, and basically tried to convince everybody if you don't take this, then you're dead, and they use ventilators to create fake numbers. But really, they were just euthanizing people in different ways. In the United States, they were injecting people with a euthanasia drug called remdesivir. In the UK, it's called something with an M, Minda. I forgot it, forgot the name, but different. It's the same thing in different places. And I was watching this other doctor in the UK talking about the excess deaths and how it's now they're finally just being open and saying, yeah, these hospitals and these nurses, they just euthanized people. They just gave them these, and it was top down orders. That's why they said nursing is not a profession, because you just do what you're told. There's no critical thinking. So they can't get the type of respect that you would get somebody who's a specialist because they're not. They're like a grease monkey. They just do what they're told to do. It's like a robot. Would you call a robot a specialist because the robot does something? Oh, it's a specialist. No, it's not. It's a shame, but that's what they did. And it's the reason you knew these nurses were scum is because they wouldn't take these shots, but they would administer them to you and your kids. So that whole profession is cooked. It's not even a profession. That's why they never got their student loans forgiven. That's why they got stabbed in the back too. I mean, they're killers.
This is a claim that outside experts say they haven't seen data to support and question if that is part of the impetus for adding this label to the vaccines, whether that is an appropriate course of action. Typically, also, the procedure for something like this involves a really public process. The FDA typically, experts tell us, would let the public know that it's weighing this safety risk, sometimes call an outside panel of advisors to meet to discuss the safety data and whether to add this to the labels of a medical product. And so far, of course, we haven't seen any of that take place. Now,
we are over 4 years in and no safety tests, no data, no nothing. They're barely starting because RFK Jr. is in there. You are the test. You're the data. If you took it and you participated, you're the test. Nobody publicly knows. We have our suspicions on where this is going, but a lot of people don't know. But the fact that they're saying this and they're putting a black label on these packages, well, it means that what she's saying is correct.
Guess what else it can do? The tentacles, it's called Hydra vulgaris. The tentacles have the ability to give a paralyzing, a venomous, or a toxic reaction. Wow, it sounds like something else I read, right? Why would they want that? Well, Hydra vulgaris is actually a organism, and I don't know what that is. It's an organism that is immortal in the lab. It can continually renew itself. If you chop it up into tiny pieces, put it in a petri dish, it will actually self-assemble itself back over and over and over again innumerable times. It'll make itself anew. If you chop off a tentacle, 3 more will grow. And the transhumanists love this organism. They think it's fantastic. Again, that was 100 magnification. I'm sorry, the last one. So this is the edge of the cover slip. There's a lot of debris, kind of graphene-like material, and we start to see a lot of ring structures in here. Now this one is with the Johnson & Johnson vial. Let me get to them. So again, ring-like structures, what they are is they appear to be delivery systems. So they'll start like this and they get bigger, bigger, bigger. They thin themselves out. A gelatinous material extrudes from it like a hydrogel, okay? And then this was like a bundle of cells growing. What are those cells? We don't know. We need to analyze them. What kind of cells are being injected into people? A crystalline structure, little crystals. Like literally this is like a kitchen sink, dirty kind of experiment going on.
The truth is this, though. We don't even know if this is what the COVID ones look like. We don't even know if vaccines exist at all. I've never been able to independently look in one of those vials before it was injected into a child. Now, luckily for me, I received one vaccine, and it gave me the chicken pox. My family didn't believe in those injections. And when I came over here to this, I came over, I had fudged paperwork, so I didn't have to take it to go to school. But 1 year when I was 7, I was visiting my mom, and she let them give me an injection. And it gave me the chicken pox. And my grandmother was pissed, my dad's mom, because we didn't do the vaccines and stuff. And you start thinking about any other health issues you have as an adult, you can trace them all back to these childhood vaccines. I think about how many kids I knew growing up that were in high school and they couldn't read, and they had anger issues and they bad tempers and would end up going to prison. Had lots of issues with learning, and then you start realizing people used to think they were crack babies, but their parents didn't smoke crack. That was just a word we would use. But you find out they were really just vax babies. The brain swelling from the aluminum and the mercury, and the darker you were, the more the because you can correlate testosterone with pigment. That there's a correlation there, so you can look that up. I mean, really and truly, if you lined up people from all parts of the world and stripped our skin away from us, you would be able to tell our background based on our testosterone levels. That's how you can tell us apart, regardless of looking at skin. The people with the highest testosterone levels are the darker people on Earth. So if you wanted to, I don't know, euthanize an entire group of people, you couldn't really create a race-based bioweapon because we're all mixed up, we're humans. But if you go after a particular characteristic that one particular target group has, like high testosterone due to darker skin, well, that's the closest you can get. That's why they failed with trying to make those race-based bioweapons in the Ukraine to wipe out Russians, because it would also wipe out the Ukrainians. They failed. And the Russians discovered those labs. That was another reason why they invaded the Ukraine too, when they found out what they were trying to do. Apparently, it was successful because when I tell you the amount of Black people dying every single day and nobody's asking questions, I have 4 female friends back in LA, Black girls I knew, a few years ago. All of them just dying in the same week. Everyone's saying, oh, maybe it was an overdose. Maybe they overdosed on weed. Maybe this and this. I'm like, so they smoked so much weed, they had heart attacks. That's what we're going with. My friends are dying at the gym. Black people. My friends are dying playing basketball. Black people. My friends are just dying during sex. Kevin Samuels, what do you think killed him? The jab. I remember when DMX went to go take the vax, he died the same day. He's one of those people that they considered unvaxxed because he didn't die after the 2-week period. He died that same night. He was gone. Like within an hour of taking the shot, he was out of there. And no one talks about it. It's not just Hank Aaron. It's not just Sir Cecily Tyson. No, it's all of them. But I'm noticing fair-skinned Black people, less testosterone, less pigment, they're surviving it. But I don't see them having kids, so I'm thinking maybe it just sterilized them. The problem is this: we all know the truth. We all have X, we all have Twitter, we all see who is causing a lot of problems in the country, and it seems like a group of people who had the means to do something about it decided to do something about it. It seems like Epstein is the key to it all, because the scientists that put this together, you trace all the scientists and the research back to Epstein and Epstein Island. Well, think about it. You know about the politicians, but what about the 1,000 scientists that he employed? What did he have them working on? The reason they have to keep the Epstein files secret is because the Epstein files are also the COVID vax files. That's where it originated. That's what they were working on. That's why they were, kidnapping and taking all those orphans from Haiti after the earthquake back in 2005. That's why they were taking them all to those islands. That's why they were taking all those orphans from the Virgin Islands in West Africa. Those were kids that were a part of the target demographic. That's what it's the experiments that Epstein should have went to prison for, not the sex stuff only. The kids they experimented on, those kids weren't for sex. Those kids were for testing. And we don't even know who all the scientists were. Look it up. Joe Rogan, matter of fact, let's see here. I was watching on Joe Rogan actually not too long ago. Let's see here. Epstein scientists. And nobody wants to talk about this part of the Epstein saga. But he was widely known for working closely with scientists at MIT and all these different places. Let's see here. The birth rates are collapsing. Yeah, not that episode. Let's see here. Where is it at? Oh, he talks about why Bill Gates wanted to block out the sun. Well, remember the results of California being the testing ground. They blocked out the sun in California and they seen the amount of death. So if you want these vaccines to work the way they were intended, you're going to have to block out the sun for everybody. He just hasn't been given the permission to do it yet. Let's see here. Where is the Epstein scientists? Joe Rogan. Let's see here. Let's see. Talking about scientists from prominent university on his island. Oh, here we go.
Go to the meetings and stuff like that. And he said he was really shocked at how little money he actually donated.
Interesting.
Yeah, he goes, it wasn't that much money. He goes, it was really like he was more than that. He was bringing them to parties. Like it was an intelligence operation. Whoever was running it, whether it was the Mossad or whether it was the CIA or whether it was a combination of both, it was an intelligence operation. They were bringing in people and compromising them. And then when they would compromise them, they would use, whatever they had on them to influence their opinions and the way they express those opinions. Here it says, Epstein regularly visited, had card key access to, and was provided a designated office space within the program in evolutionary dynamics until 2018. So that means they gave him that at Harvard after he had been arrested for fucking underage girls.
Had an office.
Yeah. Granting him that level of access raises serious questions about the compliance with Harvard's policies. And beginning in 2017, about whether or not the Professor Nowak acted in deliberate circumvention of Harvard's security procedures. So he was arrested and he'd already did time by then, which is crazy.
It's also like, at first I was like, oh God, he was on campus with all these like girls. How scary, but they were probably too old for him.
So look at this here. Harvard University said Friday that convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein donated more than $9 million to the university over the course of a decade and had an office on campus after his 2006 arrest.
Nope.
So he was arrested in 2006, and then after that, up until 2018, still had an office there. That is wild. But here's the thing. Whatever he was doing, and I don't know why he was doing it, and no one knows now that he's dead.
You see what I mean? They don't want to talk. Everybody's scared to talk about what he was doing with his science. He was giving all this money to these universities, to these labs. He was recruiting all of these scientists from around the world. Kids were coming up missing, and no one wants to act. No one knows what he was working on. Everyone's afraid to say it. He was working on whatever it is that's in these injections. But because he's dead, allegedly, we don't know the source. We don't know where, we don't know how it was created. We don't know where it even comes. We don't even know what it is. We have no idea. We just know that they brought a lot of scientists and it's killing a lot of black people. We know that. And he's talking about Elon. There was another video that I wanted to, Fabric of Society, the mRNA vaccine. It's hard to see. I'm talking about MK. There's an architecture that drains them, that wastes their efforts, that roadblocks. Yeah, there was one other video, but I don't see it. It's in here.
They gleefully repeat these narratives.
Yep.
And instead of saying, well, where did you get that information? Who are you talking to? Let's find out if that's correct. Why does the World Health Organization think it's 3.4%? Is there any nefarious intent behind this whole idea of it killing everybody that's forcing some enormously profitable venture? like forcing everybody to take these fucking new vaccines that you guys developed.
Right.
Like, could that be factored in? Maybe. Well, no, you only hear that it's factored in once everybody's profited and got out, including Bill Gates.
Yeah.
Bill Gates, who's on television telling everybody get the vaccine, you won't get COVID. And then afterwards, it didn't work. After he had unloaded all of his stock, he wasn't effective. And it turns out COVID wasn't as bad as we thought it was. Well, you guys are really responsible for a bunch of people taking a medication that was unproven. You're responsible for all the side effects. You're responsible for all these, and you're responsible for fear mongering, lying, closing down businesses, ruining economies, changing the political structure of the country.
They need to be held to account. I'm not going to forget this. And a lot of other people people's lives were destroyed. And it is, I mean, there needs to be a reckoning.
Elon recently.
Imagine how weak and pathetic you are as a man that you let another man named Bill Gates, some dweeb in glasses with money, you let him convince you to euthanize yourself and your kids and poison yourself. You let him pay people, including himself, to get on the television and tell you what to do with your body. It's crazy. I guess it wasn't my body, my choice anymore. That's why it's like I can only blame them to a certain point. 50% of the scam was them. The other 50% is you convincing yourself that you can trust them. Only 50% of the scam was the people scamming you. The other half, you had to convince yourself that it wasn't a scam. That means your parents failed. You were weak. You were dumb. You were gullible. This is not the type of world where you can afford to have those traits. You have to be able to figure these things out on your own. And it's a shame that so many people fell for it, And people come to me and we have these conversations now, and they regret doing it, but it's too late for that. It's spilled milk. This isn't me telling you don't do it or giving you medical advice. What's done is done. They've already pulled it because everybody who was going to take it is taking it. This is it. We don't know what's going to trigger it. We don't know what it's going to do next. We just know it's inside of a lot of people around us. But this is the thing. There is some hope. There are doctors who were charged and arrested because and nurses too in different parts of the country. They all said the same thing. They said they had dreams. They said they had dreams where angels and God came to them and told them to swap out the COVID injections they had for the public and use saline instead. And a lot of people were saved from those injections because they were injected with saline. Famously, there's a woman in Germany, and I think it was like she swapped that. I mean, she saved probably 30,000 people or 300,000, something like that. She had just been swapping them all out, and they didn't catch her until it was too late. And then there are other doctors that are being exonerated now in different states that their medical license pulled because they were giving saline injections instead of the vax or the fake vax. So, and then also in LA, a lot of people did take it, but a lot of us had fake vaccine cards, which is crazy that you even had to have one of those. The fake vaccine passport bullshit. So a lot of people were just like, no, I'm not taking it. I just use this fake card. So, but I mean, that divided up households. I have married friends where the wife took the shot and the husband didn't. The wife's always sick now. The husband isn't. I mean, it's like I said, it's a lot more of the people dying from it are the men. These even your injections you take as a child, they affect boys different. You see a lot of autistic boys. You see boys with the injuries. Boys, a lot of it because again, they're all testosterone reactive. We don't know what's in these other ones. So as far as I'm concerned, vaccines don't even exist. I've never, because I can't independently verify that what's in it, the ingredients. What are you telling me? What are you calling a vaccine? What's in it? Liquefied disease, and you're telling me you want to cause an immuno response, and that way I won't get it later. So you want to give it to me? Like, what the fuck? It's junk science to begin with. None of it's, the only way it works is if you don't ask any questions. And that doesn't work for people like me. I'm too analytical. Talk about everything. I discuss everything, that didn't work for me. I mean, this is crazy. And people are dying, and, people like Joe Rogan, they're talking about it, but man, it's scary for people that took it. They want to argue with you because they want you to be wrong. They don't want to think about the fact that they don't know what's growing inside them. I think about that every day. Even women I sleep with, I consider that before I even talk to anybody. I always ask, I screen everybody. But, it is what it is, but they're putting these new labels on here because the ingredients are deadly, are dangerous. But just think about it. Most people die within the first 2 weeks. And if you died early from it, they said you were unvaccinated. So they committed fraud just because they didn't want people to get alarmed and not take it. In my opinion, this is kind of what got LeBron James' sorry-ass son into the league. Because remember, his son died, and they brought him back 3 times. They brought Bronny James back 3 times. I believe it was the flashes of lights that triggered it. It's like an epileptic type shock these people have when they're doing interviews or they're talking on camera because there's a light behind it. And he seized out, and they brought him back. He had 3 heart attacks. They brought him back. And I think LeBron James was threatening to speak out against the vax in the middle of the vaccine campaign. So he made a deal with the devil, and for him not to speak out against the vax and encourage the target demographic, which was black people. Because if you look around, the only people that were pushing it were blacks, celebrities, athletes, musicians. They even had rappers making rap songs. I didn't hear one country music song about pushing the vaccine. I didn't see one song in Spanish, Viva la COVID vaccina. Nothing. It was only rappers, Tyler Perry, black athletes, everybody. That's it. It was only for them. Everybody else begged for it. It was really only made for one group. So I don't really, everybody else is, I guess, just acceptable casualties. But if my calculations are correct, by 2030, that the 13% will be 3%, if even. They're already not reproducing. So if this sterilizes you and then it kills you, then there's no replacement once these people pass away. And then with the whole gay agenda taking over that entire community, I mean, I think they're gone. I think they'll be gone in the next few years. I mean, there's too many of them dying and there's none being born. I mean, if this was the agenda that Epstein, if this was his goal, then, I mean, mission accomplished. It appears like Bill Gates just stabbed him in the back and took his data. He wants to take credit for this, but I mean, if this is what it was going to, I mean, what if they discerned that this is what it would take to save the United States? I mean, if you look at it, every adversary we have, so first thing they do when they try to come, subvert the United States, they attach with their bullshit movement to a black movement. And everything's just about destroying the country and killing white people and killing police. I mean, if you think about it, were they justified for coming up with something like this? I mean, it's not like Trump had the stomach for it. And Biden did. Biden and Harris, they famously can't stand black people. They had no problem allowing the propaganda to push it. And once everybody got the injection, they said, okay, you can let Trump back in now. Mission accomplished. I remember when, this is a funny video, actually. Remember when Joe Biden was with Don Lemon on stage? and John Lemon told Joe Biden that he took the shot, and Biden was fucking shocked that he was still alive. That's how you know. That's how you know that Joe Biden knew what he was doing and what that shot is for. They knew. They knew. Let's see here. Joe Biden on stage. Let's see here. With Don Lemon. Let's see here. Let's see here. See if I can find it. It's a funny video, but he is like shocked to death. Let's see here. No, that's not it. I mean, it's a hilarious video in my opinion, and that's what I was kind of like. Wait a minute, why is he so shocked that Don Lemon is still alive? Like he is just like, are you okay? Are you, because yeah, he's out of it. He's not there mentally, but he was. Okay, Don Lemon and COVID vax. COVID vaccine. Let's see here. Let's see here. Oh, where is that video with Don Lemon? This is a funny video. I wanted you guys to see it. Man, there's a lot of data on here that nobody talks about. Good thing we have X because nobody would ever know about all this. All these people dying. I mean, because of me, you're going to know. You're going to know everything now. I'm the leading expert in this topic because I'm the only one that studies it. Nobody else reads anything. They do whatever somebody else tells them. Should have listened to me in the first place. Where the hell Joe Biden on stage with Don Lemon, COVID vaccine question. Let's see here. I don't think they scrubbed it. Maybe I'm just not looking for it in the right way. Right, here we go.
The vaccination?
Yeah. Listen to how shocked listen to how shocked Biden is that black ass gay Don Lemon isn't dead from taking the shot. Listen.
You got the vaccination?
Yeah.
Are you okay? I mean, you seem, no, it works. Or or the mom and dad.
Bro, he is fucking shocked. He is shook. He knew what it was for. He knows what it's supposed to do, and he knows what people it was designed for. He knew.
You got the vaccination?
Yeah.
Are you okay? I mean, you seem, no, it works. Or or the mom and dad, or the neighbor, or when you go to church, or when you're, no, I really mean it. There are trusted interlocutors. Think of the people. If your kid wanted to find out whether or not there's a man on the moon or whatever, something, or, whether those aliens are here or not, who are the people they talk to beyond the kids who love talking about?
Can you believe this jackass was literally like the president that some people voted for? Can you believe that this fucking idiot was, I mean, don't get me wrong, Trump's not perfect, but no man is perfect. But but he's not this. I can't believe people were like literally pretending that they voted for him and they had a good reason to do so. Just like the Kamala people, they weren't voting for her. They were trying to vote against Trump. They couldn't tell you any of her policies, any of her plans. It's like, what were you doing? Like, why were you doing that? It's yeah, you're over 18, but you shouldn't be making adult decisions. You shouldn't even be allowed to vote. Too many people they don't even read. They don't have an understanding of politics. I mean, why would you even be involved in this process? But yeah, he used to be the president, and he was shocked that black Don Lemon took the shot and was still alive, because that means that Fauci failed, because apparently this was supposed to be for blacks.
You got the vaccination?
Yeah.
Are you okay? I mean, you seem, no, it works. Or or the mom and dad.
And then he pretty much his brain melts because he's in shock and he can't bring himself back together. It's hilarious. 14-day rule. A lot of our favorite celebrities and friends, they die within the first 2 weeks of taking a shot. Some people just didn't know they even took it. They didn't announce it. But other people, like there was like pretty famous black woman who was a news anchor in Atlanta. Let's see here. Black news anchor dies after vaccine. Really pretty lady too. But yeah, she took the shot and literally she deteriorated that same day, and they kept her alive for like a month or two, kept her body warm because they didn't want people to know that the shot was killing people. So they kept her alive as long as they could, and then she died. It's a lot of people, a lot. And if you're on X and you're looking for it, you'll find it. Black news anchor, what was her name? ATL dies after vaccine. What's her name? Anchor dies. Let's see here. See if we can find her. This is like a little late night live stream, so it's not like I'm doing an official episode like I do during the day. This is just me on here talking to you guys candidly, since this is the first time we've been able to discuss this since it began. This guy also famously died after taking a vaccine, a black dude who worked as a news anchor in LA. Died only a few months ago. Let's see here. Remember, they have those LED lights behind the camera shining on you. It's something to do with the lighting. It's something to do with the lighting. Let me see here. Where is she? Okay, black. This lady died also. Where is this woman? Oh, this is one of them. Not her. I'm talking about another one. She died last year, August 29th. Healthy, brown, and just all of a sudden, because remember, to keep these jobs, right? Remember, you had to comply. People keep saying, oh, there's a lot of people dying. And I'm like, yeah, but when you're only 13% of the population, you can't afford to lose these types of numbers like you could if you're 60% of the population. It's going to affect you differently. Nobody wants to talk about that. Man, Wanda, a lot of people, lots and lots of people that were famous and on TV and on the news, they died all of a sudden after they complied. I usually have her information. I use her as an example fairly often because her last pictures of being alive, it's a picture of her getting the vax. So that's why I'm like, I wanted to show her story. I mean, it's funny. It's not really funny, but I mean, it's crazy. That was the last image of her alive. And she's a woman that's on the news and on TV every single day. And she's in there, she's wearing a mask and taking an experimental injection to keep a job. And I mean, I guess she lost the job. I mean, when you die, you lose the job, right? There's an opening. So, I mean, you're dying to keep a job that you're going to lose if you die anyway. So it kind of doesn't make any sense to take the job. Maybe I can check on Google. Let's see here. Black woman TV anchor, Atlanta. There we go. Jovita Moore. This woman, Jovita Moore, passes away. So what we're going to do is we're going to come back to X here, right? And we're going to type in her name, Jovita Moore. Let's see if they show us. Jovita Moore. Yeah. She died. Her death started like literally as soon as she took the jab. As soon as she took it. Let's see here. Vaccine. I just want to show you guys the last picture of her alive. And that way you can understand that you are no longer in Kansas. We're in trouble. Vaccinated. Maybe this will show it to us. it's like they're making it harder to find these images because they don't want you to know. And by they, obviously, maybe the people that were behind pushing it. There we go. The last images of her alive. Let's visit her page. Jovita Moore. This is chilling. So check this out. Jovita Moore, last month, this week, 2 doses and done. About to get in these streets. Remember, they were telling you get to go outside. We outside, right? We're outside. I took experimental drugs. I'm outside. No, I'm not. I'm staying in my bubble and only seeing other vaccinated friends for a fucking minute. So I guess you're going to just see them all in heaven because that's where all you vaccinated people must have went. See, us unvaccinated people, us conservatives, the Trump supporters, right? We're still here because fuck the government. You know, and if Trump was pushing it, I'd said fuck him too. Even though Trump's my guy, he made a mistake, or did he? What if this is part of the greater good? Reducing the numbers of a certain population, whether it sounds cold and heartless, if that was the intended goal, and I'm sure they have their reasons, we see, type in hashtag Black fatigue. If you want to understand their reasoning, type in Black fatigue and see what you watch, see what comes up. Somebody was going to do something eventually. We couldn't just have an all-out civil war or race riot. Obviously, some measures had to be taken. So I'm only going to see other vaccinated friends, still going to wear a mask when I'm in public. I'll keep washing my hands diligently and keep my social distance as much as possible. Matter of fact, I'll just stay at work till this is over. Well, Miss Jovita, this is eerie. And look at the lady that killed her. You know what the funny part is about these people that were wearing these masks, giving these injections? They were wearing masks. And actually, this took place in a medical facility. Typically, they used to put you through a drive-through. But a Black lady in a mask, you don't know what her mouth looks like, so she can hide her identity. You don't know who she is. And she gave her a euthanasia substance. And the next post for Miss Jovita is, thank you, Atlanta, for your prayers and positive energy. I love you all too. Once I'm able, I'll be back. May you continue to rest in peace. Isn't that crazy? It went from the Vax picture, think about it, vibrant, fairly young, pretty woman, big time Democrat, obviously, wore the masks, did the social distancing. It went from getting shot up to rest in peace. I mean, that's literally the order it went in. It's from one to the next. I think her family let it go sit there. They know what killed her. They know, people understand, you know, hindsight is 2020, but I mean, it's not just her. Now she's fair skinned, she's light skinned. You don't see a lot of this. They're usually darker. So this was she could have a genetic anomaly where she just has elevated testosterone levels, even though she's fair skinned. It happens. I mean, this is not an exact science when it comes to the human biology and human anatomy. There are going to be some outliers. Shit, there's people that appear to be white but have elevated testosterone levels because of a Black ancestor or some other anomaly. Maybe they're taking steroids or they're taking testosterone for their bodybuilding. That's why you see a lot of white bodybuilders are dying because of those testosterone injections. And you got that thing in you that eats the testosterone to grow. You're fucked. You're fucked. You're literally changing the inside of your body to appear to be that of the inside of a body of a Black person. Why do you think they're all in the NFL? Why we all play basketball and we're bigger, we're stronger? You know, our hearts pump oxygen at a higher level, and that's all. It's a lot of it is due to your elevated testosterone levels. So That's why people take a lot of substances and drugs so they can get that similar physique and appearance. It's just a genetics thing. But it does have its downsides now because you have to look for patterns also. You got to look at the people that are dying and what similar traits they have to others. And that's what I do. See, Facebook is not a social media platform for talking to people. What Facebook really is a real-time obituary. So if you want to go and see which one of your friends have recently died, then you go to Facebook. See, on Instagram, you're not going to see when someone dies, but on Facebook, you can see when they pass away. And you'll see other people saying, rest in peace. So that's what I use. I use Facebook as, now look at Robert Reiner. They tried to tell me that he didn't die today. Yes, he did. I just did a video about it. So you can start to keep track of friends of yours and their family members who die. You can see it all on Facebook. So that's how I'm able to keep track. And that's why I'm studying the numbers. And I'm like, yeah, my theories were correct. All of them. All of my theories were correct. The question is, what do I do now? I don't know what kind of world I'm going to be living in when a lot of people around me are dead. There's going to be new safety measures in place. And because you guys wanted to just be told what to do like idiotic sheep, my bottom line is affected. I lost my home in LA. I can't live there. It's unlivable since the lockdown because of you, because of Democrat policies and even though the Democrats have euthanized their entire voter base, and that's why they are fighting tooth and nail for these illegals. They literally euthanized their entire black base. The whole Democrat Party base is just either gay white people or blacks. But the immigrants, the illegals who need them, were also their number one base. So if you euthanize your biggest support base, you're going to have to replace them. So not only did you euthanize your base, but we're deporting those who you open the border to replace them with. And that's killing the Democrat Party. And that's why they're crashing out. That's why they're losing their minds and they're fighting tooth and nail. They're speaking Somalian. They're telling people to call police if you see ICE in not just Minnesota, but California, Oregon. There's different states where they're trying to tell people to fight the Fed to stop so they can keep their voter base because they euthanized their other part of the base. And people are still voting for them. I mean, the people that forced you to take that shot, if you worked at a company with more than 100 employees, why does everybody not talk about that? Maybe I just can't get over it. I couldn't get over walking into a store and somebody asking me for my papers to show them a vaccine card and making me put on a mask. And I'm looking at them like, if I put a mask on, then all the shit I'm buying is free. I can just walk out of here. Why would I pay for something if I can conceal my identity? Like you guys are idiots for even demanding us to do this. And now in the same state that I'm referring to, California, they want to ban masks for ICE agents. Like, but you just had a mask mandate for years. So get the fuck out of here. All this, it's all nonsensical. I would say their plan is falling apart, but it's not, because the goal from the World Health Organization, the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab, and the globalists was to euthanize a problematic group in the United States, but also the people they control from the Middle East and Northern Africa. We're going to use those people to flood Europe, the United States, and we're going to push out the Zionists. And that's what they're doing right now. But the Zionists they're going to need more support from the public. So that's why it appears that they staged an event down in Australia today to get people to stop hating the Zionists so much and want to get rid of the Arabs. Because remember, the World Economic Forum, the globalists, brought in the Arabs to basically fight against the Zionists and replace them and move them out of the way. That's happening all over the world. It's not just Australia, not just the United States, and but it's happening in Europe as well. They're bringing in the third world Muslims to basically upend the Zionist influence of people of Jewish descent or Israeli loyalists. That's the war that we're watching right now. And the rest of us are just in the middle. It's a proxy war. The globalists are winning. And even if the Zionists stage another false flag, like they're already planning, Netanyahu stays busy October 7th, December 14th or 15th, whatever, they're going to need to do another one. And they want people to be mad at Muslims. And don't get me wrong, people already have their issue with the Muslims, but they want people to be more aggressive with them to save them, to save the Zionists. Now, I don't think anybody's going to think, okay, the lesser of two evils is the Zionists. I mean, don't get me wrong, the globalists did euthanize everybody, but I mean, the Zionists they just genocided like hundreds of thousands, like tons of people over in Gaza. So, I mean, I guess the lesser of two evils, you're eventually going to have to pick your poison. I prefer neither one. I prefer the United States to remain in the hands of Americans and patriots. I don't want to listen to the doom and gloom threats from the globalists and the Zionists. If you don't do this, then this. If you don't do this, then that. No, American sovereignty will remain in the hands of us patriots. We have a lot of people in America with citizenship that are not patriots, and they want this country to burn. And if Chinese and Russian tanks rolled into our country, they would jump on those tanks and start twerking and help them find other Americans to hunt down. That's a huge exploit that we have within our country. That's why we have to purge. And we're going to have to figure out who these weak links are, and we're going to have to remove them. We don't really have a choice, or we're not going to survive this. It's just so many different things happening all at once. It all started in 2020, March 15th, the first day of lockdown. That was the beginning. I don't know. There's a lot going on. So do me a favor, like the video, share the video. I will read the comments. I appreciate you guys for tuning in and listening. I have a lot of stuff to say when it comes to this whole COVID, the vaccine, the lockdowns. I can explain everything to you. I mean, maybe I should. I mean, I've done other lives about it, but I mean, there's so much news that I go over and I talk about. But do me a favor, hit the like button too. If you can like the video, it puts me in the algorithm and it helps me expand and talk to more people. And I really appreciate it. I mean, I'm a fairly new channel. I have zero idea what I'm doing, but I just have all this information because I saved as many people as I could from the shot. And I have thousands of people that reach out to me. And some people, I know a lot of them in person. They'll see me somewhere and they'll say, you know what? My wife worked at a hospital. Because you talked us out of it, I didn't take it. She didn't take it. And you told us that they're just threatening us. But you told me this. You said, if your wife loses her job because she doesn't take the shot, let them fire her and I'll help you supplement your income until she can find another job. I mean, I've been fairly well-to-do, so I can afford it, especially back then. And people said, you know, me giving them that offer, it gave them the courage to say no and to just say, you know what, you got to do what you got to do and fire me. And a lot of these, and I don't think any of the people got fired. They were just being threatened with being fired. The ones that did get fired were the city employees, people that work for the state, fire department, police officers. But if you worked at a company, it's extremely illegal to fire someone because they don't want to take a medical procedure. So you're going to fire me because I won't go take an experimental injection. What if it's a harmful drug interaction? Is nobody considering that? They said it's one size fits all. Since when? Since when? You're not even supposed to take Tylenol and Excedrin at the same time, but you're telling me no matter what other medications I'm on or anything, I can take this injection. That should have told you right there, they're trying to wipe you. They wanted to kill you. Yeah, no, it's okay. You can mix all that stuff together. There's no problems. Go ahead and take it. Nobody wanted to run your blood type. It didn't matter. One size fits all. And then there's AstraZeneca, Moderna, Pfizer, J&J. One thing I've been studying is that there was never any overlap. Like you would go to a Walgreens and it would have one of one, but it wasn't like you could choose between the different ones. And apparently it seems like there was a map of the country. And I want to know how they were able to divide up territory. What cities and what zones received Pfizer versus Moderna versus AstraZeneca versus J&J? And do they do different things inside the human body? How did you choose which community got which injection? Because remember, there was never any overlap. So obviously the territory was mapped out and already pre-designated who was going to get what. So how did they slice up the country? We don't know. And besides, I don't know anyone else besides myself that is even asking these questions, but we need to know, because what if the different injections from different companies do different things? I know the J&J was highly deadly. And for some reason, they had that like in New York. I think that's the one DMX took. He was gone the same night. And then it turns out it wasn't even an mRNA. It was like something else. Like these, people were telling me, well, Rico, you drink liquor, so what do you care about that drug? I'm like, me drinking alcohol is different than me shooting heroin. Like, you're literally letting somebody put something into the motherboard of your body, injecting something into your veins. Are you crazy? You think that's the same as smoking or drinking or eating something? You're mental. And I would have these conversations with people ad nauseum. And it's not because of me, but I'm trying to save you, because if too many people die, then they're going to close everything down and they're going to say it's a new virus and they're going to blame it on something else. And then no more fun for me again. I need my normal fun life to stay relevant, but I need you guys to stop being so fucking gullible so we can keep a society worth living in. But unfortunately, freedom of speech does not mean freedom of reach. I was limited on who I could speak to. If you didn't have Clubhouse in those 3 years, then you probably didn't hear my voice. I'm just now allowed to get on YouTube again. They deleted my page. I had millions of views, wiped. I'm literally rebuilding from scratch. So people are like, Rico, what happened to all your subscribers? I'm like, wiped. I got booted off the internet, just like Trump, just like Alex Jones, just like Del Bigtree, my hero. You know, him and RFK Jr. have saved more lives than probably any other combo of men, and no one really gives them credit for. You know, Del Bigtree's on the high wire every day. They kicked him off the internet too. He would have to email you episodes. And I'm a donor for the ICANN network, the Informed Consent Action Committee network. And I donate to them because I believe in their cause, you know, and they were doing their best to warn people and giving everyone the latest data. I spent so much time sharing this because I wanted to keep as many people alive as possible. But unfortunately, even I failed. Even some members of my family, men, who I told them, hey, don't take it, stay away from it. And they laughed on the phone, a couple of my uncles. And then they're dead. And they went and took it. They were dead within 2 weeks. Within 2 weeks of taking their second dose, they were gone. And everyone's trying to blame it on everything. You know, if it's a man and you're in California, they're going to say, oh, maybe he overdosed. So everybody's just overdosing on nothing. Healthy people who never overdosed before, as soon as they go take an experimental injection, it's something else that killed them. I remember this one guy, he had a heart attack and he tried to blame it on the elevator going up too fast. And I was like, so it wasn't the experimental drug you volunteered to do. It's the elevator speed. Okay, cool. You know, I have these conversations with people. This is all I talked about for years. And I wish I was wrong, because I knew all this in 2021. I remember I had a page called the Make It Make Sense Show. And I was like, if there's a deadly virus going around, why is Walmart open, but 31 Flavors isn't? Like, there were just questions that there was no logic behind any of this. Everybody else saw it as, especially if you're from California, life is expensive. Most of us work 5-6 days a week and we have a side business. Most people, this was their first time never having to go to work. Remember, the lockdown order was in place and you couldn't evict anyone. So you didn't have to pay bills. You didn't have to pay rent. They couldn't turn off your electricity. They couldn't turn your gas off. The only thing we had to pay for until about almost 2024 from 2020 was our internet bills. That was it. So a lot of people don't know that. So when I used to talk about this in the early days of the lockdown, everyone was like, Rico, shut the fuck up. Shut up. They're going to turn the rent back on. They're going to end the lockdown. I was like, you don't want this shit to end? Look, everything is closed. Like I remember being on Sunset Boulevard in LA at 3 p.m. on a Saturday. And it looked like The Walking Dead. It was just empty streets. And me and the girl I was dating were just riding scooters, zigzagging in the middle of the streets because everyone, I'm like, where's everyone at? Everyone's in their house developing alcoholism and just ordering DoorDash, pretending they believe that there's something deadly going on. But yet, if there was a deadly virus going around, wouldn't the homeless be wiped out first? I mean, they have no hand sanitizer, no masks, no gloves. I live in downtown LA at the time. Skid Row's 4 blocks away. Well, it used to be. Now all of LA is Skid Row. But at the time, Skid Row was 4 blocks down. And I remember I had made a documentary that they deleted. It was called not the parakeet. What's the bird? It was called like the bird in the coal mine, where if you were down in a coal mine and the bird stopped chirping, you knew that there was like a methane leak. So you guys had to hurry up and get out of there because danger was coming. And I use that analogy to say, if there was something deadly going around, the homeless people population would have been wiped. In that first 2 weeks to stop the spread, they could not shelter in place. Oh, thank you. Somebody reminded me. It was called The Canary in the Coal Mine. And that was a documentary I made. And I went around downtown LA. I went around Skid Row and I just talked about it. I was like, are you guys trying to say that Black people are either immune or there either is no virus? But you can't have it both ways. Because all these Black people down here in Skid Row, why aren't they just laid out? There should be a refrigerator truck full of dead bodies. All the homeless crackheads should be dead. I mean, they're literally eating tacos with feces on their fingers and they're alive. So what are you staying in the house for? If they're not dropping dead, then who is? Well, Rico, you know what people used to tell me? They would say, well, Rico, it's that homeless people have stronger immune systems than we do. So they're probably going to be healthier and more immune. I was like, so you mean to tell me a person who lives outdoors and is unsanitary and lives like shit, they're going to be protected and healthier than those of us who take showers and pay rent and stay indoors? And then that's how you realize that the mass formation psychosis had taken over. Remember, like I was saying earlier, 50% of a scam is the people trying to scam you. The other 50% is you trying to convince yourself that you're not being scammed. So people were like, no, Rico, the homeless people are just healthier than us. That's why they're not dying, but we're not as healthy as them, so we're dying. So that's why we're staying in the house. And I was like, you know what? So be it. I would just throw parties at my place every day. And then I got tired of living. I couldn't live in LA. There was so many people walking around with masks on, and I couldn't even walk my dogs. It wasn't safe. So I moved to a city called Fontana because I had a house out there that was renting out, and the people had just moved out. And I was like, okay, I'll go stay in Fontana. And then one day, a friend of mine calls me, and there's like music playing, and I'm like, I'm like, bro, where are you at? He was like, I'm in Scottsdale. I was like, well, where's the music coming from? He was like, I'm literally at a day party because it was like June. And he showed me pictures of girls in bikinis, and he's at the W. I was like, I thought the entire world was on lockdown. He was like, no, Arizona's open. I said, I'll see you in 6 hours. Kissed my dogs goodbye, told my girlfriend I'll be back in a couple days. And I got on the 10 freeway and went east. I get there and Arizona's wide open. No mask, no gloves, no lockdown, no nothing. Open. Shout out to Governor Doug Ducey at the time. Good man. And he fought to keep Arizona open. So I end up going back to California, packed up my house, packed up my girlfriend and my dogs. And I said, we're going to Arizona. Lived at an Airbnb until I found a house, moved into the house, Right when I'm in the house getting comfortable, Arizona does a 30-day lockdown. Oh, I was pissed. I was so mad that I literally packed up and moved to the Cosmo Casino in Las Vegas. And then I was living in Vegas for like 2 months. And then I lived in Vegas. I lived in the Cosmo for a month and just was flying people out and throwing parties every day because everything was closed. But the casinos were open, but the clubs were closed in the casino, but you could go gamble. So I was staying at the Cosmo, and then I moved over to the Venetian, stayed there for a month, and then one day I go down to gamble, and they asked me to put on a mask. And that pissed me off so much that I said, if you guys in Vegas start playing this fucking COVID scamdemic game, if you guys start playing this game, I swear to God, this city is done. It'll never recover. And people like me will never come back here. There should be a glimpse of freedom. Because that's what it was. That's why I was moving around. I left LA looking for freedom, found in Arizona. Arizona closed. I go to Vegas. Vegas starts acting like, making you wear a mask and bullshit. So I discovered this magical place. It was like heaven. It was called the great state of Texas. I was with my cousin, and it was his birthday. It was July, and they were like, "Okay, let's roll. Let's flip a coin. We're gonna either go to Miami because Miami's open, or because we're in Arizona. They're like, let's go to Miami or go to Houston." Flip the coin. Landed on tails for Houston. Flew to Houston. No one had any idea what we were talking about. They didn't know about no lockdown. They didn't know about masks. They didn't know about shots. They didn't know about vaccine passports or all the crazy. Everybody's partying. There's live music. There's nothing. I'm coming from California. We were in lockdown for 3+ years, over 3 years. Over 3 years, everything where I'm riding a scooter in the middle of the road in Hollywood. I go to Vegas and I go to Houston. And they didn't know, they had no idea what we were talking about. They looked at me like I was an alien. Like they're like, "Are you serious? Are you joking?" And I'm like, "No, in California right now, like everything's closed and locked." And they were like, I remember I went to a restaurant. I ordered a beautiful steak, and there was a person playing live music. And I mean, it made me like I teared up because I was like, this is what I had lost. They took this away from us. Had the Democrats won this last election, we'd probably already be back in another lockdown. They were already trying to bring the Marburg bullshit and, scare you into giving them more and more power and taking away your rights. That's why when people keep talking about they support Democrats, I'm like, why? But the reason is there's a lot of people who want slavery. They want to be slaves. See, they want to be slaves in this world that we're in now. And people like me, we look down upon them. But if everyone's forced to be a slave, then we can't look down upon them, and then we'll all be just equally poor. That's the world they want. Underachievers hate those who want to make things happen for themselves, and they want to blame everything except themselves. So they want to see everybody lose everything. Like I said, in California, there were people celebrating your business being closed permanently because you couldn't survive the lockdown. They loved watching it because they were always jealous of you because they couldn't do it themselves. So you guys started off at the same point, but you were doing better than them. It gave them a complex. They wanted to see you lose everything. So I remember those days. So now that I'm in Texas, I was like, there's no way I'm leaving here. For one thing, I was arguing with the stewardess because I was wearing a see-through mask because there is no virus. There was no such thing. And they were arguing. They were kind of like trying to decide if I'm breaking the rules. I do have a face covering, but it's mesh. So you can just see my teeth and lips and everything. And they're like, so they finally let me just go to sleep. They didn't bother me on the plane. The thought of putting on a mask and flying back to the West Coast from Houston, it made me nauseous. And I said, I'm not doing it. And I ended up going to stay at a hotel. And then after about 2 weeks, I got an Airbnb. And then after a month, I found an apartment. And then after that, I bought a house. And I said, I'm going to die defending Texas because this is it. This is the last of the United States right now. This is it. Texas, Florida, South Dakota, Oklahoma. The republic is shattered. Our entire West Coast is gone. It's no longer under the Fed. They have autonomous zones and they bring in the illegals. They don't follow any federal laws. They're outside of our government. I'm glad now Trump's pulling funding from SNAP from these blue states too. They won't hand over criminal data to show us who's committing fraud and who's getting the benefits. Well, if you can't verify, we're shutting everything down. So Trump's doing what must be done. And it's an uphill battle because none of this has ever been done before. Fixing these systems and purging these people and removing the fraud. Because if we lose, we go back to the world of lockdowns and fake viruses. It's amazing. Since Trump's been president, we didn't have any tornadoes or hurricanes this year. No more lockdown, no more fake virus talk, no more fear mongering. Nothing. All of a sudden, it just stops because Trump's president. Isn't that a weird coincidence? Look, we're at an hour and a half right now. I do these lives like every day, all the time. I'm long-winded, so I try to keep them short. But do me a favor, follow and subscribe to the channel. I do appreciate you guys' support. I would put my what is it called? A Cash App and everything, but you guys don't even have to do any donations. I did get a super chat on PayPal, and I went over it earlier, but I appreciate you guys' support. But you can just like the video, you can share it, and we can have these conversations. I greatly appreciate you guys tuning in and being here. But we're going to keep talking more about this. I'm just shocked because any mention of this 2 or 3 years ago, you would lose your entire channel. And now I can just openly talk about the scamdemic. And I have tons and tons to tell you. So if you have time to listen, I have time to talk. So I appreciate you guys being here. Like the channel, subscribe, like the video. I greatly appreciate it. I'll be back on in about 30 minutes. I'm going to go grab a snack and get some water. And I'm going to have another topic. I might bring this topic back up. The black box label they're putting on the vaccines now. I mean, it's a little too late. I mean, it's kind of too late now for that, but better late than never, right? So I was going to discuss that. I got a whole slew of videos lined up for that topic. But I also wanted to go over the whole Piers Morgan, Tucker Carlson debate. I call it the Great Gay Debate. And I wanted to talk about that either tonight or I'm going to do a video about that tomorrow. But I'd appreciate you guys if you come back and listen. I appreciate your feedback in the comments. There's a couple crazy comments, but hey, you know what? All press is good press. If they're here, they're watching. If they're leaving comments, they're still watching. So I appreciate it all. All press is good press. So I appreciate it. The single boyfriend, right-wing Rico. And remember, America first, America only.
I've been needing to find a new apartment, which has not been easy with credit as bad as mine. Luckily, I found cosigning.com. They connected me with a cosigner who helped me get my dream apartment for me and my dog. I just paid a small fee and was able to move in fast. Get the cosigner you need for the apartment you want. Check out cosigning.com today.